On behalf of Dr. Alcazar and I would just like to welcome you to conflict resolution. Really, the focus of this video is to hit on the major key points of the syllabus, focusing on one in terms of grading, from grading moving into the requirements for the particular things that we'll be grading in terms of writing assignments, and a little bit more related to the idea and rationale behind the reading reflection questions, the case studies, the case study analysis questions, and how we see all of those particular things playing a vital role in you learning of the skills for negotiation and mediation. Now, really, the role of the course is more to act as a laboratory. So you'll be doing a lot of role playing with individuals, writing out action plans for how you would go into particular negotiations, looking at real case study scenarios of situations in which individuals have received different conflicts and how you would go about throughout those different conflicts. And really moving forward, we just want you to really understand that this being a laboratory course, there's going to be a lot of times where you're just going to jump into the material. Just try out the skills that we're asking you to learn. Just practice with them during your role plays. You're going to have people that are observing you and giving you feedback. You'll have the instructional assistant along with Dr. Arcazar and I giving you feedback. And so really the whole point of you practicing these role plays is really just to kind of begin to understand your own individual conflict style and how your conflict style aids you as you move through the negotiation process, and especially when we move into mediation. Grading for conflict resolution is basically broken up into two portions: class participation and written assignments. Class participation is 40% of the course, and for class participation, we're basically looking at your application of the skills during our role play. Are you internalizing the ideas through the articles and the different chapters that we are assigning to you? And are you implementing the feedback that you are receiving while we were role playing the different negotiation skills and as we move into mediation? 60% of the course is based off of two written assignments. One of the assignments is your final journal. Now, the journal is broken up into two due dates. The first due date is midway through the course. That first journal really focuses on your application of skills from a negotiation perspective. The final journal will shift from the negotiation into your application of mediation skills. And then lastly is the 30% coming from your final paper. Now, your final paper, as you look on the syllabus, is going to be broken up into three sections, and I'll speak more to that in a second. But basically, what you're going to be doing is either implementing a program, looking from a different perspective, in which we're looking at how we can apply different skills that you learn during conflict resolution. The reading reflection questions below were strategically designed to resonate the same questions that you will be answering in your final journal. So the reading reflection questions are assigned for every journal article that we have for the class. And as you go through the syllabus, you will always see me highlight the section that says reading reflection questions, and then underneath that you will see the journal articles that are assigned that required for you to complete the 7 questions listed below. As you're going through the 7 questions move from summary to analysis to very self-reflection of what you're reading in the journal article and how that applies to what you're learning in the class in terms of negotiation and mediation for conflict resolution, and also how that applies to your own life. And so basically what we've done is your 8 to 10 page paper for your final journal, which is due halfway for mediation. You'll get provided feedback, and then that feedback will be implemented for your final journal, which will be 30% of your grade. And so what we've done is chunked up those 8 to 10 pages through these reading reflection questions that are required for every journal article. So on average, you'll have about 1.5 pages to 2 pages required for each article to answer the 7 questions below. So essentially what you are doing is basically building up your entire mid-reflection journal, and then as we continue on into the second half of the course, you then have the additional writings for your final reflection journal. Now, I would also encourage you as you're going through and filling out the reading reflection questions that as you are finding particular quotes or things that you would like to later cite in your paper, that you already put those particular page numbers and already just begin citing within the actual reading reflection journal. So then later, as you do your mid and final paper, and we require that you complete it in APA style, that you already have the citings within the reading reflection to avoid having to go back and find in the particular pages where you found this particular quote that resonated with you. Now, the conflict scenarios are 2 pre-course assignments that are actually due on June 1st. So the idea behind the conflict scenarios is that you will actually be essentially writing 2 mini case studies. So you'll be using pseudonyms, background information on the 2 parties that are involved in your particular conflict. We want dialogue between the 2 parties, and in the case study at a particular crisis or decision point. So the idea behind the conflict scenario is that you are able to recall a particular situation in which you had to apply particular skills from a conflict resolution. Now, whether the conflict between the 2 parties never had a resolution or the resolution was not the actual ending that you wanted, regardless of the situation, we want 2 conflict scenarios in which you would be interested to role play. So as you are writing your conflict scenarios, you are essentially writing 2 mini case studies, and me and Dr. Alcazar will go through the different conflict scenario case studies to then select the 1 case studies that will be required per night. Now, if your case study is selected as a potential case study that we would use for the course, me and Dr. Alcazar will contact you prior, 1, to really ask for your permission if you would allow us to use your conflict scenario case study as one of the pieces of our course. And second, then to also then provide feedback if we feel we need to add some, if we need to maybe change anything or add anything to your case in order to make it the best case study possible. Each of the case studies assigned will have 8 analysis questions assigned to them. The 8 analysis questions are the same for every case study, and it really takes you through the different steps that you would do in terms of planning for a negotiation. Now, the purpose behind doing the case study analysis questions is that as you begin to analyze real case studies from real scenarios that are happening, we want you to practice and applying your negotiation skills to the particular situation, looking at their positions and feelings of the needs of both parties, and trying to figure out a way to frame the needs statement of which you meet the needs of both parties. And so really behind this is 1, giving you the practice and actually doing the plan of action before entering into a negotiation and later as we move into mediation. But then also as we enter into the next day, the course will be able to focus on a role play in which you will actually be able to try out the plan of action in which you created for the negotiation. So as you're going through the conflict scenarios and trying to figure out what specifically to write about in your case studies, the conflict scenarios can be situations in which you've experienced in the past, one that you're currently engaged in. It can be situations revolving around home or your school or in other settings. It doesn't even matter if the conflict has been resolved or how it was resolved, because we are wanting to end your case study at a crisis point so that as you begin answering the 8 analysis questions, you can see the different plans of actions that individuals would take to resolve the particular conflict scenario. Now, as you're going through this, really some of the case studies that we're really looking for are really focused around situations in which you would experience as a principal or different administrators, so that not only are you applying the different skills in which we are teaching you for negotiation and mediation, but that the role plays in which you are applying those skills would be situations that you would one day face as a future school leader. And so below, I just wanted to really point out, in case you were looking for which journal articles or which things require reading reflection questions. So as you go, you do have 2 reading reflection question sets that are due at the very beginning of class on our first session day, which is on Wednesday, June 24th, 2015. Now, as you go through the syllabus, you will always see a number of reading reflection questions with the page required and when they are due, and then the 2 journal articles cited as to the 2 journal articles that you will need to complete. Some days you have no journal reflection questions, some days you may have 3, but you will always see the required journal articles underneath. And if there's any book readings, you will always see me label it book readings and underneath the book that we are referring to. Now, all of the journal articles required for your reading reflection questions will be hyperlinked on the Google site.